Starting your own practice is hard for many chiropractors. It's riddled with both struggles and successes. But here at the Chiropractic Philanthropist, we make it easy by having chiropreneurs and entrepreneurs share their struggles and lessons learned in life and business so that you don't have to make the same mistakes. And now here's your host, Dr. Ed Osborne.
How amazing would it be if you could practice because you want to, not because you have to? Learn how to improve your cash flow and increase your passive income now. Go to moneyripples.com or find their podcast, The Chris Miles Money Show, to learn more.
All right, I have an incredible guest today for the TCB podcast. I haven't done a TCB podcast in a little bit of time, but I have an incredible guest today, and that is actually Brian Biro. Brian, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm great, Ed. It's always great to hang out with you for a while.
Yeah, I was just, even before we started this conversation today, I was saying, I've done over 350, probably closer, now it's getting closer to 400 podcast interviews. I should be an expert at this, but I got to tell you, sometimes I get a little bit of goosebumps before I start these, and especially when I'm talking and speaking to someone like yourself, who, you really have a lot of people that you've helped globally, and really with their mindset, I would say, and this breakthrough type of experience that you give them. But why don't you share a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into that conversation.
I'd love to. I've always loved people, Ed. I think that's the cornerstone of everything that I do, and I really believe there are no overachievers. I believe every one of us has more in us than we think. And so my work in three really fun careers. I was a U.S. swimming coach. Then I went into the corporate world and became a vice president of a pretty large transportation company and then an international training company. And now for 30 plus years, I've been a professional speaker. So I've had the fun of speaking over 1,800 times around the world about what I call breakthrough leadership. But the real essence of that is that everyone is a leader. That's what I want people to know, that you're the CEO of your own life. And every single person, how you show up every day, big part of your leadership. How do you deal with, as we've had to deal with a lot in the last couple of years, with adversity, with challenge, with change? Most of all, what kind of impact you have on people? So my passion has been, and the books that I've written and the speaking that I've done, which I love to do, is to help people, first of all, recognize what choices they have, to focus on what they put in, and then you're going to start to get kind of breakthrough results to come out. So I just love what I do. I've had a blast, although I put my top jobs as husband, father, grandfather. Those are at the very top.
Well, let's face it, you are a public speaker. Like, you're someone who goes into these large corporations, these companies, and you impact and influence a lot of people with this expertise of where you help them, have this breakthrough leadership experience. And now, we get to have the opportunity to share some of your time and your expertise today. What has it been like, or what have you observed with a lot of different people, especially professionals like doctors, in terms of like how they've had to shift and how it's affected their mindset in the last 12 months?
I really got fascinated. I've done a lot in the healthcare industry, both in terms of chiropractic, dental, medical. And what always has struck me is that professionals in the healthcare industry have been trained in healthcare. They haven't necessarily been trained in patient care, and they're a different thing. And they're also not really usually focused on being real good at self-promotion. And that really is an interesting parallel that I've drawn. I'm a professional speaker. I'm up in front of thousands of people all the time. I've probably been in front of close to a million people, and I'm not a self-promoter. And the same way that someone running their chiropractic office loves that clinical work, but how do you build that practice into something that has wings of its own? How do you build it so that your team is flourishing, that your patients are constantly talking to other potential patients, and that you, in essence, really word of mouth is the only really way to build something. And you can use different mechanisms to generate that word of mouth. But I've lived that firsthand because I don't like tooting my own horn. It's not, it's just not my deal. But in my field, that it's important that people get to know me, and so I can get out and do the work that I do so that they end up loving it. And so I really, that's what fascinates me about the work that you do, because to me, it's kind of a third pillar, if you want to call it that. There's the clinical pillar, we'll call it the lifestyle, and then there's the leadership, if you want to call it leadership, teamwork, choices, attitude, mindset. And that's what I really believe, that without that third pillar, it's going to be real difficult to build an incredibly successful and maintain a really successful enterprise and practice.
And I mean, what I've been able to kind of get to know you a little bit more over the last 6 months. And I got to tell you, I mean, I get a lot of emails every day. I connect with a lot of people online. Every email, every experience, every interaction I ever have with you is always one where I always think of, wow, this man is so humble. He's so grateful. And he's always, I always walk away, even from an email. I don't know how you do it, but I feel like, there's some joy, like joyfulness from it.
Probably because I started with joy to you, so I make sure you get it right away.
I know it's really a delightful change though. And, and I see this though in a lot of the work that you've done, but I see this in how passionate you are about what you do, especially with the Breakthrough Solution program that you have. But can we dive a little bit deeper into the third pillar? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. Yeah. When you think about it, if you think about a practice as a business, which is important to do, you've got to understand what is it that makes a successful long-term business. And it comes down, if you want to bring it down to one thing, it's engagement. It's engagement of yourself, engagement of your team. And another word for engagement is energy. And to everyone that we touch, our energy is our example. So as a chiropractor, as a doctor, as a health practitioner, again, you've been trained in clinical. But here's the truth. Patients expect clinical excellence. That's what they think. So. What really matters is how you make them feel. It's how they feel about you. And the same way you were describing about, which makes me feel really, really great, that just in my emails, it elevates your energy, that something comes across that says, you're important, you matter to me. And that really is what the third pillar is about. Our job, if you want to build an unstoppable business, no matter what it is to help the people that we lead, serve, and care about to know they're important. Because when people feel important, they rise. When people feel important, they want to tell other people how great they feel. And that is something that my work is about. That's what that third pillar is. That's what the Breakthrough Solution is all about, is to help you understand how to do it. It's not super complicated, but it's not something that typically is trained. And it's about being significantly focused on improving in some subtle, simple ways and making some fresh choices. I love the word that you said, humble, because to me, if you're going to be a long-term success, humility is probably one of the most important ingredients that is never taught. In fact, some people have an opposite connotation. Humble is weak. But to me, only those who are humble are lifelong learners, all right, because they're always striving to get better. So if you look at the best in any industry, they are humble because they don't believe that they have reached the top. They always believe that tomorrow I can do something a little bit different. And so I work on those in kind of three key areas through the Breakthrough Solution, and to bring that third pillar to an extraordinarily new height.
Do you think a lot of doctors or a lot of professionals in general have been humbled the last 12 months? Would you agree with that?
I think we've all been humbled. We've all had to pivot. I look at my own work. This March of last year, I had 80 events on my calendar, every single one of which was canceled. And that's my entire livelihood. So we've had to figure out, wow, how am I going to adjust to a world that is changing so rapidly that I don't know where it's going, that the certainty I had on February 25th is now completely uncertain on March 10th. So I think that is incredibly humbling, and we have a simple choice. We either choose to change and grow and try and find new things and adapt, or we give up. It's really a choice between moving from ego to ego, and you'll never move from ego to ego until you're humble.
And I want to pull, two words from what, this conversation already, and the two words are energy and engagement. So a lot of what you do is really help doctors as well, like bring that energy and help engage. I'm going to use the word connect with their people. Like, we'll call them patients or their people, their clients inside of their practice. And this is something from my own experience from, being in practice for 14 years. I did believe at one point that it was all about the clinical. And then the more that I actually became more real and more engaged and brought my energy to my patients, that actually I started to see my practice actually start to really thrive. So you see that there's a real connection between your energy, your engagement, and the clinical aspect and the growth. I mean, let's face it, we want to help grow our practice and help more people, correct?
Absolutely. I talk about in Breakthrough Solution and Breakthrough Leadership, I talk about three, what I call controllables. And here's the key. When we are focused on controlling our controllables, the things that we actually can choose, our actions and our focus, we feel momentum, we feel direction, we feel energy that ignites us. When we try to control our uncontrollables, we feel frustration, we feel anger, we feel lost. So the essence of what I teach in the Breakthrough Solution, I've taught my whole career, is about controlling three controllables. The first is to shape the future. You have to see it before you can be it. The second is what we just talked about, which is to energize and engage your team and yourself. When it comes to human performance, when it comes to business performance, the biggest key ingredient is energy, because to everyone we touch, our energy is our example. And only when we start to elevate our energy can control that third control, which is to build people, teams, and relationships. And I'll tell you a great story because from healthcare that really gets at that essence between clinical excellence and what I call patient care. I've had the fun of working, having done more than 60 events for Kaiser Permanente, which is one of the biggest HMOs in the world. And they asked me, and I've done all these different events, but they asked me in because they had one functional area that didn't seem to live up to their standards. And they are meticulous about patient care, and their definition of patient is one that every chiropractor should have. And that is, their definition of patient is not just the person getting the care. It's their family, it's their kids, it's every single interaction is what I call a window of opportunity. And they measure that meticulously. And you have to have at least an 85 or better on their score to be up to their standards. And they really transformed from the worst to the best over the years. But they brought me in because this one functional area could not get above 60, and they had to get to 85 for 2 years. And it was like blew me away because it was MCH, which is mother-child healthcare. And to me, in a medical center, that's the one happy place. That's birth and babies. Come on. So first thing I did was always the best thing to do when you want to try to make a difference is I listened. I set up 60 interviews with a great cross section of everyone in MCH, the physicians, the nurses, the technicians, the receptionists. And I asked them, what do you do great? What do you not do great? Well, bottom line is we came out with something that we called, and this is so much a part of the essence of what we do in the Breakthrough Solution, called the 4 Ws. What we found was that there were very specific areas, completely non-clinical, that could make the biggest difference. The first W was called welcome. First impressions are huge. And the fact is we have many first impressions every time we have any interaction with a medical professional, with a chiropractor. And they found that there were places where people felt like things. They were a name on an appointment list. They were a number. They were not feeling welcome. So the first W is, and this is so true in a chiropractic environment, if your people don't feel welcome, if your patients don't feel welcome, they're not going to want to come back. They're not going to talk about you. The second was warmth. Now that seems obvious. We want to have our people feel good. We want to have our patients feel great. But it's being kind to unkind people that matters. It's warmth when people aren't warm. It's easy to be reactively warm. But the only warmth that works is proactive. It's being warm when people are scared or hurting or exhausted. That's where that kindness, that warmth makes the biggest difference. So welcome, warmth. And the third was the biggest one, and the one that I see more commonly, no matter whether you have a real small office or a bigger practice. The third W is we. Is that if you're going to really extend patient care with welcoming and warmth to patients, it has to start by doing the same to each other. That we so often silo off. There's the doctor, and then there's the assistants. And until that, there's a sense that everyone's important, that everyone matters, that to that patient, each time you interact with that patient, you are that practice, then you're going to always fall short of that patient care. And when you do those three, welcome, warmth, and we, it shifts to world class. And that's what you really want to get to. So the fun part, Ed, was we did this, we uncovered this, then I trained it in the same way we trained it through Breakthrough Solution. In 1 quarter, after 2 years of never getting above 60 on their patient care scores, they hit 88. Wow. The next quarter, and just integrating it into your culture. What I really do is create a cultural shift. They were over 90 and they've never gone back. And so that is the power of that third pillar. That is the power of what the Breakthrough Solution is about, so that you have a practice that grows organically, which is what you love, because then you can really focus in on the things that you love to do.
I have to tell you, I have like 4 pages of notes already. So, I mean, I don't practice anymore, but I can see that, like these same principles that you're teaching here in the Breakthrough Solution, it's applicable to any business. Any entrepreneur can take this information, because there's a lot of entrepreneurs who are probably going to be watching this, right, and follow me even online. But this, I could see that every time I get on a call with a doctor who's looking at joining one of our programs, that this is the completely, this is the principle that we should be applying. And it's all comes back to that word energy, isn't it?
It absolutely is. Why is energy so important? Well, there's 2 foundational reasons. The first reason is that it's all about that thing I just made. I have fun with it. It's my favorite word, which is the word woo, W-O-O, which is the window of opportunity. And in business, it's seizing those windows of opportunity that will generate an exciting future. And here's the truth. The window of opportunity is every precious moment. You never know if the next person who walks in your office may become the single greatest source of word of mouth for your practice that you've ever had. You never know if the next time you talk to your son or your daughter, your spouse, your partner, or friend, if something you say may change the whole trajectory of their life. So why is energy so important in relation to the woo? Is that energy helps you seize more woos. Simple as that. Have you ever noticed when you have more energy, how much more alert you are to possibility and solution? And here's the key, Ad. We have not been taught that our energy is our choice. We've been taught that energy is like the weather. Hope the weather's good. Hope it warms up so that office isn't freezing. Hope the weather's good for that family picnic. Energy is a choice based upon some things that every chiropractor works on, but it's about movement. Right? It's change the way you move. You instantly change your energy. I mean, it's impossible to be down when you look up. And so we're not wired that way. All right. And so movement and purpose are the sources of constant energy. Mm-hmm. So why is energy so important? It puts you in a position to seize those woos, whether with patients or with your team, or just breakthroughs in your own thinking. The second reason is what I said before, and it's so important to bring this out: to your patients, to your team, to your children, to your loved ones, to anyone you care about, your energy is your example. The truth is, people won't remember that much of what you say. Yeah. But they'll never forget your energy. And so the instant somebody walks into whether it's walking in or doing a Zoom, instantly that energy is shining through. And when that Zoom is off, or when they walk out of the office, what are they going to really hold on to? That level of energy. I've been speaking for 30 years. And if there's one thing that I've had more comments about that have lifted me up is, where do you get that energy? And the simple truth is, because I love what I do. I love it with such a passion, and it's really a purpose. So when you bring that kind of energy, you're going to start to see a whole new dynamic in the way your practice grows, and in the fun that you have doing it. So we're talking about woo. So it almost feels like this is almost like having or harnessing the power of attraction. But it's not really attraction. It's more like the power of vibration, right? It's like your energy is really what's going to
Well, here, I'll make an observation. So when I'm really excited about working with someone or someone's project or what they're doing, and I get really excited, I notice they get really excited. And then all of a sudden things start to happen for both of us. Like, and we build this really great relationship. And it's not unlike that in your practice is what you're saying too, is it really is about the energy. And it's such an intangible piece of business that is probably not taught. But this is what you're teaching in the breakthrough solution.
Yep. And we believe in the KISS principle, Ed, which is keep it simple, superstar. So what we try to do is take that thing that is seemingly intangible, not taught, and put it into a simple way of really being able to make it much more tangible, much more measurable, much more accessible. And this is not by thinking it up. It's by living it.
Yes.
That understanding that the energy is a choice and how specifically you can elevate that choice. And here's a simple litmus test for your practice. What if we look at energy on a 10-point scale, with 1 being comatose, and 10, a child on Christmas morning, 10 when you are on top of the world. Here's what's going to determine a huge part of your long-term business success, whether it's in chiropractic or anything else. When people interact with you, when they walk in, what's that level on that 10-point scale? Well, they're 4.6. Unless they are going up considerably by the time they walk out, you're going to not have any word of mouth that you want.
Yeah.
All right. You're not going to build it. So our job is to elevate the energy and the engagement of the people that we really want to serve.
And let's face it. I mean, it doesn't matter, again, if you're in healthcare or if you're an entrepreneur, you have a brick and mortar business, people have choices. Like even in healthcare, like they have actually probably more choices now than they ever did in the history as to, who they would like to actually, maintain their space and time with.
Absolutely. And I think it's in a strange way, it's almost been amplified because of COVID, because in the past, we pretty much had one way to go to a chiropractor.
Right.
Well, we've had to find new ways, just like in the past, when I was doing my speaking, it was in front of you in real life space and audience. Now it's virtual. And so that means an expansion, even if when we get beyond this, wherever that takes us, it means suddenly we have a whole new realm of things, as you discovered when you decided to do what you do, which is to scale your business and reach so many more people. But everything I'm saying has just as much application to what you're doing right now. From the first moment I met you, you made me feel welcome. In each interaction, no matter what's going on, there is a warmth, there's a connection, there's an authentic appreciation for working together. And that extends to everyone that you work with, which is the we. So this, whether it's in the chiropractic office or whether it's completely virtual, the foundation of what I call breakthrough solution, breakthrough leadership, it's always, always, always the key to stay on track and to control your controllables.
Yeah, I love this discussion. I don't get to talk about a lot of this, like what we're talking about today. Usually we have this complete interview flow that we go through with doctors, and this is completely riffing, and I love it. So, hey, docs who are listening right now, so you could be listening on iTunes, you could be on Stitcher, you could be on Spotify, you could be watching this live on Facebook. What I want you to do is actually check. If you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, you can actually open the show notes and you'll see a link to the Breakthrough Solution program there. If you want to head over to my website, which is thechiropracticphilanthropist.com, we're going to have a webpage actually dedicated to our discussion with Brian today. And we will have a link to the Breakthrough Solution program. But I think everyone should at least go and learn more about this because it's an incredible value. And, it's so resonating with me today. And I love how these conversations come your way when you need them the most. You know how that happens. Now, this is more of I don't know if this is a question that would be related to the breakthrough solution or not, but do you notice, because of the shift in the way that we're connecting now, a lot of it being, virtual. So when you were on stage and you're connecting with people, I mean, you're brilliant when you do that. That's your genius. And then going online, do you have to change your energy and your vibration and how you communicate when we're like this versus when you're, on the stage or even one-on-one with someone?
Only in a small way. I think that whether I'm on stage, when you're full of purpose, you're full of energy.
Right.
All right. And so the connecting key is to be on purpose, is to be doing something that you feel purposeful about. Think about it. When you get to do what you love to do, it doesn't matter how much sleep you had. It doesn't matter how you've been feeling. You are 5 years old. Let me at it. All right. But think about when you lose sight of your purpose. Probably one of the great books of all time that every human being, I think, should read is called Man's Search for Meaning. And it was written by Viktor Frankl, who was a Holocaust survivor. The essence of that book is that purpose is life, that purpose is breath, that the people who made it through the Holocaust were not necessarily the most physically fit. They were the ones who had a purpose left undone. And so in terms of energy, there is the slight change is that on a stage, I'm in constant motion. I'm moving my whole body because I want to connect with every single person. Virtually, I want to connect with you too, but I have to stay in a little slot or I'm off the camera. So that's the only real difference. But in terms of what is coming through me, it is really not a change in that energy because it is driven from the same place: purpose, service, and to some degree, movement. The restriction of movement is only that I'm not on my feet moving around. And I wish I could be, because I love to do that, but I get to look at you just right here. So I think that when you come from an energy that is driven by purpose, that is authentic. You can't fake it, because people pick up whether it's fake energy.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Just like when you're watching a movie and you go, that's overacting. That is just, I don't get them. But when suddenly you care about them, you know that they have transformed to living that role. So whether I'm on stage or doing this work, I want to come from that place of purpose, which is a belief that every one of us can grow, can get better, can make a bigger difference. And we can do that through our choices and through the simple, focus on controlling those controllables.
Sorry, I'm making more notes. I have to tell you, I mean, like, I feel like, and I don't know if I should use this word or not, I feel like energy is contagious. Like it is.
It's a positive contagiousness. If there's one thing we want to go viral, it's energy.
Yeah.
All right. And it's one other thing I know we'll talk about, which is in the heart of this program, because I call it the secret behind the secrets. And it's about being fully present. Again, what is this third pillar about? What is the foundation of building a truly successful practice, both in terms of the way your patients feel and your team feels and that energy you develop? Well, it starts with presence. Our job is to help people know they're important. I can't emphasize that enough. That's what makes people start to feel energized. When they feel important, they feel they matter, they feel they count, they feel they're, that they really are cared about. That's when our energy rises. And when our energy rises, we share that with other people, and therefore word of mouth starts to grow. And pretty soon you're organically growing in ways you never grew before. But there can be none of that without first being fully present. And what that means is when you're fully present, 100% of your mind, body, and spirit is with the person you're with where they are now.
It's very easy in these days, isn't it, to be distracted?
It really is. It's one of the technology is a great thing in a lot of ways, but it also is disconnecting.
Yes.
We're more connected to our phones than we are to one another. But think about this, whenever someone is fully present with you, instantly, what does it say to you? It says, I'm important.
Exactly.
And the instant you shift away, you distract, people know it instantly, and it says, I'm not as important as that distraction. And so it is where the foundation, without first presence, you can't convey the energy, and then the energy doesn't become that virus that we want. So that's really a foundational thing that is built throughout this program, because until you are fully present, you're not going to convey that message to your patients, to your team, to your children, to anyone that matters to you, that, hey, you matter and you count.
Do you have any tips for listeners, even one or two tips to stay present, like to get, is it preparation before you see the patient? Is it something that, you actively try to maintain being present? Like, when you're with that individual, what would you say?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. The first thing is to be aware of it, because it's just the instant you're aware of it, you'll start to be more alert to when you're not present, and you can come back. But a couple of things. One is to ask more than tell. We've been conditioned that we go to the chiropractor, we go to a leader, always go to them for answers. And there is definitely time for answers. But as soon as we start to think that our job is just to give answers first, guess what we do? We're thinking about what we're going to say instead of how they are feeling right now. So instead is to ask first and then listen in two powerful ways. Number one, listen before you formulate your response. 99% of the time when somebody's talking to us, are we really listening? No, we're formulating what we're going to say. We're thinking of our story. You can still come back with that, but take it in first. That's number one. Number two is when you listen, you force yourself to actually be present, because it makes you recognize you don't know what's actually going on with that person until you quiet down and listen. So the first thing I'd say is, yes, be aware of how important it is. And number two is ask more than tell. Right. And then three, inch by inch, anything's a cinch. And in the Breakthrough Solution Program, we give you really simple, practical ways to begin to change your habit, because not being present is a habit. We have to replace it with being habit. And one of the most powerful ways I know is to pick out 2 people in your life who for 30 days you commit to be more fully present with. Now, it doesn't mean you have to spend more time with them. You may have less time, but when you're with them, put the technology aside, listen before you think about what you're going to say next, take it in. And one at work, one at home. Do that for 30 days and you'll start to get feedback. After 3 days, they're going to go, you've been working out. You're looking good. Something different about you. And it has nothing to do with how good you're looking. It has to do that you're really present with them and you're conveying in every second you do that they're important. Now, just like not being present can become habitual, so can being present. For me, it's my number one life goal. You probably never heard anybody ask, what's your life goal? Say, my goal is to be fully present in every precious woo. That's it. Because I can't do anything. The past is history. The future is a mystery. The gift is right now. And that's why we call it the present.
There are still some docs, and especially, docs who might be listening to this right now that are heavy influencers inside of our profession. They are still doing some large, speaking, engagements. I don't know what provinces, states they're in, so I know that you still are doing speaking engagements right now as well. Like you will. Yeah, okay. So if we wanted someone who's listening today and they're vibing on your energy and they want to connect with you to have you come and actually present and speak to one of their groups, what would be the best site? Should we send them over to your personal site then?
Yeah,
Brian?
Just my business site, brianbiro.com. Simple, just, and that's really all about my speaking. I've written 15 books, but, and I love writing a book because it crystallizes your thoughts, and it's another mechanism for communication. But really, I think I was put on earth to present. And so, yeah, just going to my website, that's the way.
Well, and I know today with our discussion, it was, really we did want to focus on those key principles of the Breakthrough Solution Program. But I think it's really important that, we're talking about energy and vibration, is to put you in the same room as like 100 or 200, doctors. And really, I feel like I know that whenever I have a live event, it really is impactful as well.
There's nothing like that kind of energy. Yeah. I've come to really appreciate this medium and the virtual. I've done some very big virtual events. And the difference for me is that I like to get people off the sidelines and into the game. And that's really in the Breakthrough Solution as well. It's harder to do it virtually, just because they're not right there. And so, I mean, really physically, but we've done everything we could to make that as interactive and alive. You can't win the game unless you get in the game.
Yeah. And I got to tell you, one of the biggest lessons I've learned, just as we kind of wrap up the discussion today, is, doing these types of podcast interviews. One of the biggest lessons I learned, or had to learn, or was forced to learn, or habits, was to actually be quiet, which is to listen and not wait for my moment to inject my opinion. And that's actually made me a better chiropractor. It made me a better doctor when I started using that same principle when I was in a room with a patient. Instead of, having a list of questions that I had to get through, it was just being quiet and listening and allowing them to, it could be that the only time that they ever get to have a valuable conversation with someone in that day. And have someone actually listen to them. So I love this conversation. I want to make sure that our listeners head over to thechiropracticphilanthropist.com. Again, we'll have a webpage dedicated to our discussion today. We're going to have all the links, the resources. We'll throw in that link and resource also for docs for Viktor Frankl's book as well. But I want to, again, thank you so much for bringing the energy that you have. It is really contagious, by the way, in every interaction that we have. But I really want to thank you again for being on the Chiropractic Philanthropist. We're all about giving back, and I feel like you've done an incredible job of that today.
Well, I so appreciate you. I really believe we're one person. And so these principles that apply to your practice, they apply to your family, they apply to your own health, they apply to your own spirit. And so it's really a holistic way to elevate this precious time, this precious woo that we're here. So I love working with you. I'm having so much fun with the great work that you do, and it's an honor and a privilege and a joy to be here.
So you've heard the struggles, you've heard the successes, and this episode is done. But there's still so much more to come and so much more to learn. Head on over to thechiropracticphilanthropist.com and sign up for our newsletter, where you'll receive free practice building tips and strategies, including how to market your practice with your very own podcast and so much more. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on The Chiropractic Philanthropist.